call this City Commission meeting to order on Thursday, October 19th in the Commission Chambers at the Municipal and Safety Building. Tonight, our invocation is going to be done by Minister Reverend Lester Latney from Friendship Baptist Church. And if you will stand for that and remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. Holy and eternal God, our Heavenly Father, the God who blesses and guides and directs the hearts of your children day by day. One God who allowed that you would step out on a plateau of nothing and cause cosmos out of chaos. And God, we thank you for the opportunity to again receive and pray for your blessings over the city of Johnson City, Tennessee. We thank you, God, and pray your blessings for our mayor, our vice mayor, our elected commissioners, our city manager, our staff, and all who are here present in this chamber and who are watching live across the area. We pray now, God, that you would have your way. Move in the midst, God, and we pray that we would move in civility, that we would walk in accordance with your holy and your divine will. After all, my God, you ordained government. And because you ordained it, we pray that you would have your way. Bless these deliberations and have your way. In the name of Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, your first order of business is the consideration of approval of minutes for the regularly scheduled City Commission meeting held on Thursday, October 5th, 2023.
Move approval.
Sorry.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Laus?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor, we had no request for public comments on item number 4. Item number 5, 5.1 is a proclamation recognizing WJHL-TV on their 70th anniversary.
I'm Jake Wayton's the news director at WJHL.
Good evening, I'm Paula Jackson, the Executive Vice President of WJHL.
Have you here tonight? Whereas WJHL-TV aired its first television broadcast on October 26, 1953, and whereas the station was founded by Haynes Lancaster Sr., Haynes Lancaster Jr., and Jay Birdwell, and whereas the station has celebrated its 70th anniversary by broadcasting from surrounding communities throughout the year, and whereas WJHL-TV is celebrating 7 decades of delivering local news and weather to the Tri-Cities region, and now, therefore, I, Todd Fowler, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim October 26, 2023 as WJHL-TV's 70th Anniversary Recognition Day in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, 70 years.
Thank you. Absolutely. So I hope everybody has seen, we've been out and about all year thus far. Started in January, we'll go through December, letting the communities that we live in and serve know how important that they are to us and what we do. So we love it. Community is what we're all about. Partnerships throughout the community is what we do. And it's a pleasure.
Mayor, may we say something from the dais up here? Yeah. So to the audience and, of course, to our good friends at WJHL, the importance of this television station to this community, I can date back a long time, probably more than anybody up here. But in the late 50s and early 60s, I was a child here, and we had a total of 2 networks. We had CBS and NBC. You had to have some kind of major rabbit ears to get ABC, and that was such a foreign thing to us. But WJHL was so much a part of the absolute programming that we had, not only but news, but I remember the cooking shows and the interview shows and everything. That was how we got our news, how we got connected with the community, how we kind of stayed together. So, and I'm very good friends with all the Lancaster daughters. They have been such a big part of this community, and we thank y'all for everything you do, because you do more than delivering the news. You are community folks who really help take care of us, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a great partnership we have, so thank y'all.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thanks.
And Mayor, if you want to stay down there, the next is a proclamation, presentation of a proclamation recognizing American Pharmacists Month, and then we will all join you to get our flu shots.
Come on up. Come up in the front. Dean, you coming up too? I did notice it's all young ladies tonight with the pharmacy school. Glad to have you all here. Whereas pharmacy is one of the oldest health professions and is dedicated to the health and well-being of all people, and whereas there are more than 12,000 pharmacists licensed in the state of Tennessee and more than 327,000 pharmacists licensed in the United States, providing services to assure the rational and safe use of all medications, and whereas it is important that all users of prescriptions and non-prescription medications or their caregivers be knowledgeable about and share responsibility for their own medication therapy, and whereas pharmacists are specifically educated with a focus and level of expertise on medication therapy that exceeds that of other healthcare providers, are ideally suited to work collaboratively with patients and other healthcare team members to improve medication use and outcomes by providing services through medication therapy management, and whereas pharmacists provide both expertise and accessibility, which are crucial to patients fully optimizing access to medications, and whereas student pharmacists from ETSU Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy provide high level of expertise and accessibility, particularly in the Southern Appalachian region, since its establishment in 2005, and whereas the American Pharmacists Association and the Tennessee Pharmacists Association have declared October as American Pharmacists Month, now therefore I, Todd Fowler, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as American Pharmacists Month in Johnson City, Tennessee, and urge all our citizens to acknowledge the valuable services of pharmacists to provide safe, affordable, and beneficial patient care services and products to all citizens. There y'all go. I'll let you do that. I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Megan Ellison. I'm a third-year pharmacy student at the Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy.
Hi, my name is Whitley Hudson, and I'm a P2 at Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy.
And I am Kaylee Duff. I'm a P2 student at Bill Gatton.
I'm Eliza Sweeney. I'm also a P2 student at Bill Gatton.
Hi, I'm Carolina Davis. I'm also a P2 student at Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy.
Hey, I'm Caroline Brooks. I'm a P3 student at Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy.
Hi, I'm Aiden Bush. I am a P3 pharmacy student at Bill Gatton.
All right, one more thing. Where is everybody from?
So I'm from Kingston, Tennessee. It's pretty close to Knoxville.
Oh. I'm from Abingdon, Virginia.
And also from Abingdon, Virginia.
I'm from Kingston, Tennessee.
I'm from Englewood, Tennessee. It's outside of Knoxville.
I'm from Edenton, North Carolina. It's Outer Banks area.
I'm from Nashville.
We have a large variety of places that we have people from, but most of them are Southeast United States people, and a lot of them are Tennessee people. But I am glad the state did what it did to help fund this, so it's equally accessible and not so expensive for some of this stuff. So thank y'all for being here, and you're going to stay up here and do some work. So I will confess I'm a physician, and I work for Ballad, and they came around last week to my office and said, here's your flu shot. And there's so much paperwork that goes with that if I get one here, I have to take all the paperwork from here and distribute it to 6 different places. So to make my life easier, I just went ahead and got the shot. So I'm not against the flu
So we're going to have a
vaccine.
vote. Do you believe the mayor? Raise your hand if you believe the mayor.
I'll bring the
Well, he has 2
paperwork,
arms,
so
so
I'll
you
make
get
sure.
another
Yeah.
one, the other arm.
Just, that's
We're gonna
why
give
I'm
him a
not getting
pass.
one, because I don't want 2. So sorry about that. Thank you.
Have you seen the clock?
Yeah, it's right here. Randy.
Oh, it's over there. I see it. It's stuck up on your neck. Oh, thank you very much. We may need it. One of my favorite times, yes. I think they signed them already and gave them to Whitney. Yeah. They signed them and gave them back to Whitney already.
You're all set.
She already got it. I remember the first time you did it, they caught a picture of it, and Joseph just looked like his face.
That was on purpose.
Yeah.
That was a kid. My mother had to take me.
Thank y'all very much.
Appreciate it.
We're
Thank you.
good.
9 people. You okay? Yeah. I'm gonna pass out on you. No, she's held up to that. Never got this.
So I've really come a long way.
You
How
have.
come that's engaged?
I have aversion to needles.
Commissioners, the next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda.
All right, I'll start to my left.
Okay, I would like to pull two items, 6.4.1, and the next one, 6.4.2.
All right. Vice Mayor?
No, sir.
Joe?
Just the two that Commissioner Brock already pulled.
All right, and those will be the only two we need to pull tonight.
And item 6.4.1 is RFP 6701, which is the Thomas Weems Architect Facilities Master Plan Development for Science Hill School Campus. We have both the school here and our Assistant City Manager Trivet. Do you have specific questions?
I know this has been, we've talked about this almost 2 years ago to work on this plan, and so I think it's just a good update and where we are and something the public can see.
Great. We really excited about it. You know, the plan has to do with a lot of different things. Safety of the campus, traffic flow, also the capacity at Science Hill High School as our community continues to grow, the existing space that we have at the campus, but also are there places where we can naturally do modifications on site to add capacity to Science Hill's campus. And something I think we're trying to find out as well is how many students do you want on that campus? What's the capacity as far as traffic flow and making sure that, you know, at some point, when is it wise to look at maybe expanding into a different school, hopefully down the roadways. But as we continue to grow as a city, we're going to have to continue to think about that. I'm Steve Barnett, Superintendent. I'm probably supposed to introduce myself.
And also, as Dr. Barnett said, there's going to be an emphasis put on security. So security inside the school building, also security on the campus, how that takes place, what needs to be done there to protect our students while they're on campus and while campus is in operation. And then also some programming. They have programming now that they're using spaces that are probably subpar for what they're needing to be done. So this master plan will look at those programs that are needing maybe new facility or a new space and try to figure out the best and highest use for getting a new space. You know, we own the property where the woods are at, but between the parking and the main entrance. And so that could be a place that we add additional parking or add additional buildings, whatever that they would need. And the architect who's been selected that you all are considering tonight has added to his team professional experts in those fields, like with security, with school programming and school capacity and all that. So we feel very good about what the end product will be. We're looking at trying to promote this for the next 10 to 15 years to see what the growth in Johnson City is going to do. They've also been instructed to work with the staff in Kimley Horn that we're using to do the growth management plan in Johnson City so that they can get actual numbers and they can compare what their findings are.
How long will the study take to complete?
I really think this study will probably take about 9 months. That's what we're kind of looking at. It could be longer. It just all depends on, they're going to have to, the good thing is they already have a lot of the drawings for the school and the existing footprint, even though it's piecemealed, but they'll be able to take those drawings over the years that additions have been added on or wings have been constructed and put all those together into one footprint so that they can study the capacity and the programming and how the seating would be arranged inside. So with all that information they've got to gather, working with the schools, working with the principal very, very closely on what their needs are, working with the school board. I feel like all those stakeholders need to have input, and I think that's what's going to take.
So it's probably 2 years at the earliest before you start to see any kind of tweaks and changes actually to the physical plan.
I think possibly some of the safety upgrades could be a little sooner. You know, we've been able to add a gate on the backside of Cotty Jones. One is coming on the front side of Cotty, coming off of Libertyville Boulevard. And we were, as a system, we used some of the safety money and the money through the TISA and what we received from the city to hire 4 security personnel who also help be those hands, feet, and eyes on that campus just to just monitor. They're really campus monitors and help with the gates and that sort of thing. But I'm interested really to see if they're going to expect more fencing or more gates, and I'm really interested to see what comes out of this study as far as safety is concerned first.
And a lot of the capital projects that are going to be suggested or recommended that comes from this master plan will be divided up in priority and phases and brought back to you all as capital projects in the CIP or as needed if they're a higher priority as they come through, so that we can spread out what needs to be done over a period of time, because if you do everything all at once, as large as campus as that is, it would be very costly.
I think one of the, Mr. Trivett, you talked about stakeholder input, and I think this is absolutely essential that through the study we get that input, and particularly where safety and security is concerned. And one of the topics we discussed at one time is the involvement of the community as to what kind of schools do you want. We, from a security standpoint, we see some schools that are, putting in very limited access and metal detectors and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's important that parents weigh in and the students weigh in on what is a secure school to them, along with the experts who are going to be advising us as well. But, security in any situation has to involve all of us, that we are the eyes and ears to our community, that we have to be involved in that as well without, all the physical barriers as well. So that part I'm really looking forward to. We still have community schools here, we have neighborhood schools here, and we want to try to keep that culture as much intact as possible, but be, diligent in the way we protect our students.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
And it is more like a big college campus than it is a normal high school. So
Yes, sir.
It's not going to be easy to figure out security for that big an area.
Yes.
How many students do we have now?
2,400.
At Science City?
If it could improve drop-off, I would be all for it.
That's the reason, I said it for Commissioner Wise's benefit. I probably started with traffic flow. Really,
Thank you. Fewer left-hand turn movements. I'm sure that would solve something.
ride the bus, and that's your advice.
Part of safety.
Well, I'll let you have that conversation with my son.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item for discussion is RFP 6715, Central Technologies Emergency Management Support System, and also Johnson City Schools.
Well, one of the things that we've been looking at for a long time is a way for staff members to be able to contact and have an alert system in our school system. Looked at several different options and visited schools. Wanted to have one that was proven and something that someone else has been using that we know has been around for a while, technology that works. And Dr. Wallace spearheaded that, so Dr. Greg Wallace is going to talk more about it.
So one of the, just as a general rule, one of the feedbacks that I've received from principals pretty quickly, or principals and teachers throughout the time that I've done this job is that, what about me? So when we're doing, if we have to do a lockdown procedure, that's all initiated from the front office. So if there's somebody in a classroom and whether they have an emergency, medical emergency, or even if it's not a lockdown situation, but an emergency where they need an administrator, how do I get somebody to me quickly? So you're probably aware of states like Texas and Florida have Alyssa's Law. The state of Tennessee passed it as a recommendation, not a requirement, which means you have to have an emergency button in each classroom. So we looked at it, we bid it out. We initially had a company that bid that only had a single function badge that, you know, if you push the button, then an administrator was still going to have to go up and make a determination. Was this a serious situation, medical situation, whatever? So our board felt as if that wasn't effective. It also didn't have a long school history. So we bid it a second time. The company Centegix was the only bidder, but they have an extensive history in Florida and Georgia. I also work with Tennessee High School. We went to Tennessee High. They're very pleased with it. And it has a two-function button. It's geolocated to that teacher. So if I happen to be a football coach on the field and I have a student with a medical emergency, I push it. It's going to geolocate directly to where that badge is. If I'm a traveling teacher, it's going to follow me. It's not assigned to my school. I've spoken to Mr. Matherly, Washington County EMS, and he thinks it'll directly link with his service. He wants to be on the front end that can help with the rapid deployment system with the police department. So we feel real good about it. We're going to pay for the first year and installation out of that one-time safety money that the state approved. And then the board is committed, if that money's not renewed, which we hope it will be, the board is committed to paying for it for the years 3 through 5, or 2 through 5.
Is that just teachers, or will all staff,
All staff.
have it?
Good question.
Is that in all the schools or just Science Hill?
All schools.
Wonderful.
All schools.
So Tennessee passed Alyssa's suggestion.
That's
it was Alyssa's
correct.
law, and then ours is more of an
I think they didn't
intimate.
want to, I suspect that's the route, you know, I mean, there were several new safety requirements came after Nashville, and that was one. I would not be shocked if it does not go to the higher threshold eventually. So like everything, we want to be kind of ahead of the game there.
So the question I have is, in the information that was provided to us, it says insurance pending approval. So how does insurance play into this?
When they do that, risk management always has to approve any vendors or any contractors or anybody that's doing any work contracted through us to make sure they have proper liability insurance, proper workers' comp, all those types of insurance. And Ms. Joy's here that she reviews that and makes sure. And so what happened, this came through so quickly to try to get to your all's attention so that they could start implementing it, that once she approves it, then that's when they'll actually ask the mayor to sign the contract with your all's approval.
We had a superintendent's meeting region-wide yesterday. It was interesting. That was one of the biggest topics was, of course, safety, but the need for the state funding coming in to be on an annual basis. We have statewide, you have whole buildings, you need foyer upgrades, safety upgrades with doors, glass, all those different, and a study like we're doing at the Science Hill campus. So it was really important for our community, and I think all the communities around us, for that continuation of that safety funding from the state, if that's possible.
Speaking of security, I understand that some of our door accessing systems are dated with standard keys. And I'm hearing that that may be upgraded throughout all our school systems using key fobs and things of that sort. Do you mind speaking into that?
We've already paid for that, so we'll have key fob systems for the exterior doors. Classroom doors, they're still going to have a classroom key, but it only goes to that classroom door. But for the exterior doors, each school will have designated doors that are just key fob. That'll be where staff members and employees are able to come and go. One of the strengths with that is you can, when they leave as an employee, you can turn that off. You can also set that to where it's off during certain times. So you may not have access to the building overnight. You may not have access to a building during weekends or holidays or summer. When I was a principal for many, many years, I always took up keys and ID badges during the summer, just in case somebody decided not to come back. That also gave me peace of mind that somebody wasn't going to set the alarm off. But that would allow that. And still, I give them probably easier access coming on a campus that has multiple buildings, especially going from building to building, knowing which site to go to using that fob.
And thank you for speaking into that, because sometimes employees don't turn back in keys. So
Well,
being able to,
That's right.
you know, limit their access based on a fob or, you know.
Can't duplicate a fob.
Yeah.
That should eliminate too, you know, having to prop a door open if they're just carrying stuff in and out, and just another layer of safety as well.
Absolutely.
Going back to your push buttons, you do hopefully have our state senator and our state representatives that are behind keeping this funding going. If you don't, I'll talk to them too, because
I'm going to talk to them, and we've got a couple of opportunities. We've got an opportunity on November 13th at Nicewarmer Foundation, which I'm invited to with local state legislature. Also, the school board's going to be meeting with them on December 1st. We'll have a meeting just with our local legislators to talk about many things. That's one of the things that's on the agenda.
so I'm sure they will be behind that and work
I think they
toward
will
keeping
too.
that going. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
All
We
right.
sure hope so.
yes, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Wiles.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Laus?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioners, the next order of business is under ordinance, and all of these are second reading and include public hearings. Ordinance 4845-23, this is the second reading and public hearing for an ordinance to amend Article 3, Section 3.5, and Article 4, Section 6.28, 6.30, 6.33 in the zoning code of the City of Johnson City to make changes related to 3 overlay districts: corridor, design, and gateway. We have Will Ryder here, our Development Services Director.
Good evening, Mayor Fowler, Vice Mayor Murphy, Commissioners, Mr. Ball. These are proposed changes to, there are 5 existing overlays in our city, as I'm sure you're well aware. We have the gateway overlay on West Market Street, the design overlay, which runs in the state of Franklin, and the corridor overlay, which is on North Rome Street, Bobby Hicks Highway, and Boones Creek Highway. There are 2 other overlays. There are only 3 that are subject to these text amendments tonight. There were a series of workshops that date back to November of last year, several of which your commission was attended. The Planning Commission, this document that we have today, these proposed revisions were recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in September. One of the things that forced our hand into looking at these proposed revisions was a change to the state law, which said that we could no longer use discriminatory language for particular building materials. Therefore, we removed the word prohibited from each of the overlay sections that dealt with facade material requirements. Another one was, there's a section of the non-conforming provision that allows planned demolitions of non-conforming structures to rebuild completely and be non-conforming again. So what we proposed is that for planned demolitions that are 50% or more of the existing structure, that those have to be built to comply to the current regulations. It still allows for non-conforming reconstruction for acts of nature. This change deals with how the text is written in regards to how far the overlay extends in the property. Currently, it says 300 feet from the parcel's front property line. The intent of the overlay district is for it to extend from the existing right-of-way, which it's intended, whether it's the State of Franklin, Rome Street, Boones Creek Road. You can see there are properties that actually have front yards that are in the overlay section, but they're on East Springbrook. So we propose to change that to 300 feet from the right-of-way line of the intended right-of-way, rather than 300 feet from the parcel's front property line. Also proposed to change, tilt-up and precast concrete are listed as facade materials. They're actually construction methods. A proposed exemption for buildings or structures that cannot be seen from the intended right-of-way. Bring these up. These standards are standards that are dealt with in existing Public Works, TEMA, and TDEC standards. In many cases, like with a 15-foot easement or 15 feet, in many cases, those are already more restrictive with standards that we have in place. All these types of standards are dealt with in every site development that we review, and Public Works reviews those. So this was redundant and in many cases inaccurate and less restrictive than what's actually
Mr. Ryder, could you
required.
go back to the previous slide? And
Yes,
just
ma'am.
Cover the one before that one. Yeah, and just a little bit more detail about the exemptions, what that would mean to that kind of property.
The applicant would have to provide 3 elevation drawings that demonstrate that from the right-of-way, their structure will be screened by natural topography and not visible. The intent of the right-of-way or the intent of the overlay standards are to improve the aesthetics of our major corridors. If the building is not visible from the right-of-way, then we thought it was practical not to include that in the overlay, to exempt those from the overlay requirements.
Except for the lower floor.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the entire structure would have to be not visible from the right-of-way to qualify for this.
Thank you.
Currently, we have primary materials and second materials for those 3 overlay districts that have facade standards, primary and secondary. There are no proposed changes to actual materials that are either primary or secondary. There is a method that exists for the Director of Planning and Development Services to approve secondary materials in the code. I'm the director, I feel it's a bit capricious and really puts the city in a bad position for a director or one person to approve certain materials. It could appear that there's favoritism depending on who the applicant is. We felt that it would be best for an appointed body like the Planning Commission to approve any changes to those secondary materials. Landscape pedestrian walkways. Currently, there's language that says for rows of parking that lead into main entrances of commercial structures that it's encouraged. And encouraged, we believe, is a poor use of language inside a code. If it's encouraged, it's not enforceable. So if it either needs to be required or not mentioned at all. So we recommended changing the word encourage with required. I'm going to go ahead and bring all of these up. The big change before you tonight is the use of primary materials on buildings that are 35 feet in height or greater. Why was the 35 feet was selected? Because that is the typical height of a 3-story structure. Alternate primary materials. The current proposal is that secondary materials be made available or are allowed for buildings that are 35 feet and higher, but only for the structure that's above the 15-foot mark on the structure. So currently, in the design overlay, this affects the design overlay and the gateway overlay. Currently, a building in the design overlay has to be made of 75% of the primary materials, which is brick or natural quarried products. What this provision would allow for is that taller buildings that exceed 35 feet, the first 15 feet would have to be made out of those primary materials. 16 feet and greater at that point, they could be made out of the secondary materials. Any questions at all on that provision? This will not apply to the West Walnut District. The West Walnut District is a zoning district just like B1, B2, B3, B4. West Walnut District is not an overlay. West Walnut District is a zoning district. The design overlay applies to the West Walnut District. Kimley Horn, city staff, went through great lengths several years ago to come up with a master plan for the West Walnut District. The West Walnut District has a particular intent. It's supposed to be bicycle pedestrian oriented. It's a compact urban corridor, no maximum setbacks. It has a different feel to it. We felt like that the West Walnut District should still be subject to the existing overlay standards as they're written. So therefore, for any buildings, the north side of the West Walnut District where you have of West Walnut Street in the WWD, there's no height requirement on buildings. So buildings that are 35 feet or higher on West Walnut will still have to comply to the standards as they are written today with 75% primary materials for the entire structure that's visible from the right-of-way. The staff recommends approval for several reasons: to make the zoning code compliant with state law, to provide more options in building materials for structures 35 feet in height or greater in those sections of the gateway overlay or design overlay that are not part of the West Walnut District, to enforce overlay standards on certain redevelopment projects like we demonstrated with the non-conforming provision that we're proposing to revise, and to omit conflicting and duplicate requirements that we see with the greenways and those sorts of standards that were covered previously. Planning Commission recommended approval in September 9-1, and these are your decision options. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any changes since first reading?
No, sir.
If nothing else, I will go to the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing in just a minute. I would ask you to come forward if you'd like to speak. Give us your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to talk. So I will open the public hearing on ordinance 4845-23.
Good evening, Mayor. Patrick Burns, 3251 Chestnut Oaks Drive, Marietta, Georgia, 30062. I represent the Brick Industry Association, a trade association that includes clay brick manufacturers and distributors here in East Tennessee. I've come tonight to share our concerns with the Design Overlay District revisions, Section B 630.3.3, which create an exemption from the primary material requirements for buildings that are 30 feet or taller by allowing for alternate primary materials, such as the secondary materials listed in Section 630.3.3.c, or also any alternate secondary materials that are set forth through the process in Section 630.3.3.d. So this text amendment would allow for any type of materials for the upper portions of buildings that are 35 feet or taller, and this amendment would also allow for any materials in those buildings above 15 feet to be any type of material. So we have serious concerns also regarding the language in 630.2 regarding the applicability of the Design Overlay District that exempts from the building facades development that is not visible from the specified street due to natural topographical features and the corresponding new evidence of exemption section, which is 630.3.8. So we believe that these new sections, again, I'm going back to the original Design Overlay District. So these are These are new sections that would seriously weaken the masonry standards of the design overlay district, and we request that they be removed because it will make this design overlay essentially ineffective. So masonry standards promote economic development, public safety, sustainability, and long-lasting communities. Communities across Tennessee have adopted these standards for generations to create a sense of place. Communities such as Farragut, Jonesboro nearby, also Johnson City. And I think that was the intent of your city commission and the late Jim Donnelly, who was your planning director, who I knew. He was to create a sense of place in this area, in this design overlay district, in the face of growth. So justification for these changes by staff allude to providing financial relief for developers due to material costs and compliance with House Bill 749. In looking at third-party RS Means construction data for both residential and non-residential buildings in Johnson City, it shows that several of the alternate material products that would be allowed for higher stories in the overlay district are actually more expensive than brick. In addition, the intent of the authors of House Bill 749 legislation was never to prohibit cities from doing masonry standards or material requirements. So the deletion of this ordinance would result in a downgrade of the quality of construction in this area at a critical time for the city when it is facing an influx of residents. With the growth that is occurring, Johnson City should be adopting stronger standards, not weakening them. In addition, yes, sir.
We're going to have to cut you off, but we understand, and we have a question even.
Okay, yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah, sorry to go over, I
No,
apologize.
you're fine.
I would just like some clarification on something you said. You quoted
ma'am.
it twice, I think, that on the upper stories, they could use any materials. Then
Yes.
Could I get Mr. Ryder to comment on that?
Yes.
And that would be through the planning commission process. There's an alternate process in section D that would allow for the planning commission to approve any material for those upper portions above 15 feet.
Not all materials are allowed for buildings that would be affected by this new provision. For those buildings that are 35 feet tall or greater, from that 16-foot mark up to however tall the building is, they would have to be made out of an alternate primary material. The alternate primary materials are the same as what we now have listed as our secondary materials. For example, in the design overlay, secondary materials are hard coat, stucco, concrete materials not limited to architectural split-face block, and synthetic stucco and fiber cement siding. Those would be the only materials that could be approved, would be allowed on these types of buildings that are taller than 35 feet, but not on the first 15 feet. The other thing is, as far as his reference to what the planning commission would decide, there is a provision for a developer to request a secondary material that could be used, but that would be subject to planning commission approval if you approve of these revisions.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I will close the public hearing. Do I have
So
any?
I chaired the planning commission when the design overlays first came into being and have been generally supportive of them for all the aesthetic questions that a design overlay might exist for. And I remain supportive of that. And several months ago, when this conversation kind of resurfaced, there were, in my mind, pretty significant changes in the overall tone and tenor of the design overlay that I did think was going to have a negative effect on the outcome. I'll respectfully disagree as to the consequences of, for example, the sight line. If you can't see the building from the primary corridor that we're trying to create an aesthetic from, I'm not sure that the design standard is really all that relevant. If the building is hidden by a mountain, I'm not sure that we're really talking about aesthetics. Now we're talking about marketing brick. And the design overlay didn't come into being to sell brick. It came into being to enhance the overall appearance and quality. And I think this is still doing that. And in my view, is doing it in a way. Truth is, when the design overlays came into being, I don't think we really anticipated 4, 5, 6, 7-story buildings on these corridors. And so when you're talking about 35 feet, that's the food city that meets that standard. You know, there's quite a bit of stuff on State of Franklin that has already developed meeting this standard. The challenge has been when buildings are destroyed, or the reconstruction piece, there's a lot more brick occurring in those, or not occurring in those reconstructions right now than is ever going to be exempted at 40 feet in the air. And so I think I'm not approaching this from the perspective of how much brick we can sell. I'm approaching this from the standpoint of a design aesthetic. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be more brick, not less. But at the same time, I also want to recognize that the initial design overlay did not contemplate 4 and 5 and 6-story buildings. And I think we have to be realistic about that. It's with those thoughts in mind and the various references I've made, I'd make a motion to approve on second reading.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that. I'll also say as well that any structure that is further than the 300 feet from the right-of-way doesn't have to meet any of the design overlay standards. So and they may be visible as well. So we're talking about some that are, the line of sight just restricts them from any visibility. So I think this is a good compromise for us to look at now that we're having some higher buildings to be able to accommodate for that. So I second that.
If I may add to the conversation, I know there was a lot of compromise from the context of the support that wanted to have mostly secondary material for the entirety. But in support, from the standpoint of preservation, there was this West Walnut district that is protected. And so I find that to be important, to have brick and masonry in that, what I would call the hallway to the living room. And so I think, again, this is a healthy compromise, serving both on the Planning Commission. We spend hours, days, and months talking about this issue. And so, just to add to the conversation.
And I would add to it as well, you know, a lot of the emails we've gotten, particularly from folks with General Shale, about half of them I read, I wasn't sure that the authors of the emails understood we were only talking about very limited corridors. Several of them would refer, you know, the city's brick standards, and I think there was an expectation on the part of some that these standards applied to every parcel in the entirety of the city, and they don't. As Mr. Ryder pointed out, it's essentially a limited number of corridors. And one of the things that I think we really need to be looking at, if we want to strengthen that design standard, is there are still areas that people would visually assess as being corridors that are not in these corridors. And if you need evidence of it, go look at the Walgreens at South Roan and compare it to the Dollar General at South Roan. And that's the difference a design overlay makes. One side of the street is in it, and the other side of the street is not. And I'm more concerned about the sides of the street that aren't in a design overlay at all than I am about buildings that are 50 feet tall. And so I think, you know, we're going to find a lot more common cause when we're talking about buildings that are under 35 feet, and those are most of them, because there are still a lot of areas that are pretty significant gateways and corridors that we have not really gotten our arms around.
And we should.
And we absolutely should. Every time I see a fancy Dollar General, I get a little angrier.
Kind of, sort of.
But that's just my personal venting. I'll get over it. I'll be all right.
Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is item 7.2. This is ordinance number 4854-23. Again, this is a second reading and public hearing. An ordinance providing for the conveyance of certain parcel of real property and agreement of conveyance by the City of Johnson City to Holston Habitat for Humanity. We have Assistant City Manager Trivett.
Any
to talk about this
changes?
one.
Hi, Commissioners. No changes. The only thing I would like to address is, at the last meeting, Vice Mayor Murphy asked if we could get some statements put into the conveyance agreement of some details regarding the type of house and the playground. I do have a memorandum from Holston Habitat for Humanity that I would like to read into the record. I've talked to our city attorney, and this isn't enough of a change to the ordinance. There will be no change to the ordinance. This will go into as an exhibit into the conveyance agreement. And she said we could do that without starting the process over again. So if you would, I would read this to you all to describe what they're looking at. Holston Habitat for Humanity will receive a 3-acre parcel of city-owned land located on Moreland Drive in Johnson City. This parcel will be used to develop up to 12 new homes for low to moderate income households, ranging from 2 to 5 bedrooms homes. Holston Habitat will also construct a public park on the southwestern corner of the parcel, located directly above the city's stormwater line running along Moreland Drive. This can be seen in the shaded portion on the concept plan. The estimated acreage of this park will be approximately half an acre. Once the park has been constructed, Holston Habitat will convey this property back to the City of Johnson City so that the City Parks and Recreation Department will oversee the property management in perpetuity. Holston Habitat for Humanity is committed to working closely with the City of Johnson City to design a park with considerations included but not limited to setback requirements for infrastructure, safety and insurability, and feasibility of permanent park maintenance. Holston Habitat will also seek input from the surrounding neighborhood regarding design preferences. The organization will strive to build a park that benefits as many community members as possible. Johnson City citizens can expect to see a modest neighborhood developed on Moreland Drive, which will include public sidewalks, a public park, and 2 to 5 bedroom starter homes. The new energy efficient homes will feature design elements with character and curb appeal, such as front porches, yard landscaping, ADA accessibility, concrete driveways, and high quality materials. Does that satisfy what you were looking for, Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other changes. And this is public hearing.
Anything else before? All right. Again, I will open the public hearing and ask you to come forward and state your name and your address, and we'll give you 3 minutes to comment.
My name is Lester Latney, and by permission of my beautiful wife, I live at 208 Alta Tree Boulevard here in Johnson City, Tennessee. I just want to stand in support of the conveyance of the property to Habitat for Community. Having had meetings with them regarding the property and what is being designed, what is being promoted by the community, as well as by you, the commission, and our city manager, I think this is a very, very good plan and a good opportunity, great opportunity for those who cannot afford housing in the midst of the economy that we're living in. We have had discussions with individuals where their rental rate has gone up as more as $300 or more per month. This is a great opportunity for some families to get a chance to have their own homes and have the opportunity to make this particular area a better area to live in. So I just want to provide my support and thank you for the letter that was written and for the opportunity for this to be a great chance for citizens in our community. As Vice Mayor Murphy will attest, that's the shortest sermon you'll ever hear me preach.
And there's no offering plate.
That was what, 1 minute and 20 seconds. I know that's a record, so. Yeah.
You've got more time.
Well, Mayor Fowler, if it's appropriate, I'll say amen.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay.
Hi.
My name is Lisa Story Williams, and I am a Habitat for Humanity family member. I received my Habitat home in 2014 and became part of the family there. And what it did for me and my son, I grew up in that community on Moreland Drive. I grew up on Montgomery Street. Man, what I wouldn't have given to have a park right there. I mean, we had one on Boone Street, but to have another park over there in the area would have been great. But what it did for me and my family to be a member of the Habitat family was great. My son, we got our house in 2014, so he was a high school student at Science Hill High School. The security that it gave him, the stability, because it is hard, you know, it was great to have an affordable home, that we still live there. My son hasn't moved out yet, so. He's 26 now. He hasn't moved out yet, so I guess he really, really liked his home. Our home is at 1806 West Lakeview Drive. We were the family that received the brick house over with Habitat for Humanity. So I would love to see the growth in the community that I grew up, to have homes there. It's right near Science Hill. I mean, you can already do some planning over there too, so you might as well build some houses over there. It would be great to see more families in that community, to build it up, to be more secure, and affordable homes, because I still have brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews that live in that community, and would love to see more children over there that could enjoy that area. And is that enough time? Yeah, it is. It's great time. Plenty of time. But I would hope that you guys would approve the build of a park and more homes over on that Westmoreland Drive area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deidre Minutolo, and I have my little speech written out because I'm not good like they are and can't talk like that.
Deidre, can you give us your address?
Yes,
please?
my address is 105 West Chilhowie Avenue, Johnson City.
Thank you.
Approximately 19 years ago, I found myself homeless with 4 children. I was a single mom working 2 jobs to support my family. I recently retired from the Johnson City school system after 28 and a half years. 19 years ago, I was considered homeless. My dear sweet friend, Pat Aldridge Hinkle, let us move in with her, 5 extra people in her home. And at that time, I didn't know if I would make it on my own. There were people that didn't want me to make it. They wanted to see me fail. And I wasn't going to be a failure to my children or myself. Pat told me about Holston Habitat program, so I called, did a brief screening, and was scared to death to apply. I was sent an application. I returned it promptly and waited. I remember getting the call that said I qualified. Long story short, I attended every single meeting. Each meeting, the discussion was on money management, paying your bills, including your house payment, insurance, taxes, etc. We talked about home maintenance and being a good neighbor. I also had to put in sweat equity hours working on other Habitat homes, including my own. These homes are not handed to these families. 2 churches partnered with Habitat to start my build. People that loved me and people that were total strangers. My kids and I worked ourselves to death to get this home and to make this happen. 18 months later, the keys were handed to me on around Memorial Day. My childhood preacher, Jim Pollock, prayed over our home. Every one of my kids and myself signed the boards on our home, including the roof that framed our home. I was able to pick out flooring, cabinets, countertops, and even the fans for every room. I truly got to make it our home. One thing about the program is we have to keep our homes up, keep the yard maintained, and I truly enjoy working in my yard. I'm the good neighbor. My neighbors often sit on the porch with a cup of coffee or have a bowl of soup. They know they can come borrow a cup of sugar from me anytime. My one high school neighbor that I've watched grow up often comes over for milk. Now, I'm telling you, he eats a half a gallon of milk when he comes over for his Jethro bowl of cereal. Being kind, friendly, good neighbors is important to me. My family has celebrated many baby showers, birthdays, holidays, cookouts at West Chilhowie. I'm still involved with Habitat builds, and I'm working on a Habitat build in November in Elizabethton. Once I was driving our church van, and I had to take a very polite youth home. He gave me directions, and I proceeded to take him home. I started smiling when I saw his house because it was a Habitat house that is near the property being up for talk. So I don't have much time. So anyway, that's kind of the short story. Thank you, and may God bless these families that get these homes.
Which churches were part of your build?
Mine were Wesley Memorial and St. Mary's.
Thank you.
Deidre, it's really so good to see you. You've retired now, right, from the Johnson City Schools? Yeah. Thanks for coming and telling us
You're
your
welcome.
story. That's
I can
just
talk for
really-
an hour, but I know I don't have that time.
Randy won't
Thank
let you.
I'm Rebecca Bolander at 157 Lamont Street. I am a Habitat homeowner. And I got into the program because I have a son with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And the thing of having the Habitat house was affordable and to make it handicap accessible. And we were the first faith build in Johnson City. And at that time, we didn't know the progression of the disease, and my son was able to walk into the house, and that was the goal. He is now 21 and wheelchair bound, and he goes to college. And having this house, or is handicap accessible, I can actually leave him at home for some independence with a service dog, knowing that he has a house that is accessible for him. So I think building more of these houses is what we need here to support families, because you just never know. And I thank the Lord for this house and for providing for my son, because it's just a devastating disease that he has, and this house has just been a blessing.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Good evening. Abraham McIntyre with, also am able to live at 626 with Maple Street with the blessing of my wife. We have something in common. So in 1993, I was on top of the roof of a Habitat build with two church members, one being an extremely wealthy local developer contractor and one being a cash-strapped roofer. And it was in that moment that I saw the beauty of partnerships and how people coming together can make beautiful things. 23 years of critical home repair and affordable housing is now how I have used my life and my calling. I'm now the United Way of East Tennessee Highlands Community Impact Coordinator. United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community. We win by living united, by forging unlikely partnerships, by finding new solutions to old problems, by mobilizing our best resources, and by inspiring individuals to join the fight against our region's most daunting social crises. What I've seen time and time again, even through today, is when you bring resources together and partner with good people in organizations, amazing work happens. And as we've seen with Habitat, with ASP, with Eastern 8, and with many other local organizations, partnerships make incredible things happen, even with the Langston Center and the Langston neighborhood that each of you all have been a part of. Infill partnerships are a wonderful gift to our community and to conveyance of this property, and the conveyance of this property to Habitat will have incredible benefits to the neighborhood, our community, and truly to the world. Speaking of the park, REI, an international outdoor recreation organization, has a program called Outside in 5 that is a push to get 100 million people within a park in 5 minutes. This adds to that, and this makes, again, as our city being one that is focused on families and children, this gives one more opportunity to boost us as a city. With all that said, and as an engaged community member and a lifelong leader in housing, I fully support this community enhancing opportunity, and I thank you for the opportunity to share our family's support of this conveyance. Thank you all.
Thank you, Avery. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. I am not tall. I'm sorry. I moved the microphone down. My name is Lydia Ashley. I'm at 212 Pepper Tree Court. I'm in Kingsport, but I'm here today because I work for Holston Habitat for Humanity. So you've heard some realities of our homeowners. One of the biggest realities we have in our office today is that we just recently closed our homeowner application process. So we have open and closed enrollments. Our office received 156 applications. Those are for 5 spots total in the counties that we serve. 47 of those wanted a house in Johnson City. And because of our capacity and the land that we currently have, we were only able to choose one person. So 156 applicants, 47 for Johnson City. Where we are is we chose one. So my office next week will tell we've told and will continue to tell 46 families in Johnson City that we are at capacity and unable to serve them. And that's hard, and this conveyance of this property will help ease that. There's a huge need for affordable housing. I know you all know that as commissioners. I don't have to, preach that choir. But we keep our homes affordable by looking at each family's income, and we keep their mortgage payments at 30% of their monthly income. So we make sure that they have support to stay in this area and to stay in their homes and to grow their homes. So if people can afford their mortgages by not having to pay so much money, they can spend more time in the community, and it's good for economic development. If people aren't worried about their mortgage payment, they're spending money downtown and they're living their lives out loud and they're taking their kids to more things. They're able to eat more dinners downtown and have flexibility in their budget. And so I've been able to see a huge part of that where people take the keys to their home and they immediately feel relief because they can not have to worry about the rental contracts that they're paying. That, he's gone. But that he mentioned had gone up, roughly $300. So many people are paying so much more. These units will also help the city goal objective to bring more affordable housing units. I think I read that you guys are hopeful to bring 2,000 units in within the upcoming years, and we can help with that. This is a good partnership. It's something I'm proud to be a part of, and it's something that I hope you guys are happy about as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paula Jackson. I live at 213 Lee Carter Drive, and this was not planned, but I think God put you where you're supposed to be, right? So I had the opportunity to work on a build for a lady in Johnson City. It was a true blessing. It was the funnest job I've ever done. And the lady that was moving into the home had a son. She worked. He went to school, but she helped on the house too. There were classes. She had to do things. It was a learning experience for her that she probably did not know. How do you get on a budget? How do you make sure you pay your bills? What do you do? So Holston Habitat does so much for not only people, but for knowledge, giving them the knowledge to be successful. So if we as a city can give 12 homes, I'm all for it. Just my take on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Anyone else?
Hello, all. My name is Tyrone Mitchell. I'm of 112 Shannon Lane, Johnson City. I'm going to speak here because I've been on the board for Holston Habitat this is my second year now. And I originally started, didn't really have an idea of what was going on, what the organization was about. I actually thought the same thing everyone else did. They just give away homes. But it's nothing like that. It's, it's an extensive process to actually get a home, and it's an amazing organization, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I'm from Bristol, Virginia, but moved here to Johnson City, went to ETSU, graduated construction, and I've been a builder here for 12 years now. So that's kind of why they invited me to be on the board, to give my expertise on things. And even Vice Mayor Murphy knows my attention to detail and how well I look at things as far as housing goes. And I think it'd be a great impact for this neighborhood because, other homeowners will feel motivation to actually increase the value of that whole area. And, I was actually, funny story here, I was actually out personally surveying the property when we were looking at doing this, and a homeowner came up to me, and he was from across the street, and he was asking, what's happening here? What's going on? He saw the subsurface testing going on with the holes being dug and everything in there. So he was asking me that, and it's a funny story because it's actually Lester right there, the same guy that came in here before, and he was so excited about this little idea here, and I was just telling him kind of the ideas. We just had a few different design ideas as far as doing the cul-de-sac and everything. So I kind of want to scope it out myself and see what was going on. And I thought it was so impactful to me that the neighbor right across the street had a nice house and everything, and it was nicer than the rest of the neighborhood mostly. And he came over and was really excited about it. So I think that's kind of a cool story that it was him, the same guy that I've never met before, was there and seen it. So again, I didn't have much to say. I just wanted to come out here and speak for the board, as well as me as my expertise as a contractor. And I think, like, looking at this neighborhood, you think about affordable housing and how it's like the terminology for affordable housing and a habitat house is not given away. You know what I'm saying? These will be a middle-class neighborhood of hardworking people, and they'll be very nice houses that'll, bring really beautiful things to that neighborhood there. And I think it's a great development, great opportunity. As soon as Laura let me know about it, I was all over it and so excited about it. So that's kind of all I had to say. I just wanted to put in my little 2 cents as a contractor and what I've experienced on this board.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I will close the public hearing.
Mayor, I heard it said, I think it was about habitat, that it wasn't a handout, it was a hand up. And I think everybody that has spoken has echoed that sentiment. And the value of the stability and security of home ownership for so many families is important, but it's not just for those families, it's their neighbors and the community that's around them. This is a great opportunity for the city to take an otherwise idle piece of property and create there an opportunity to do something that isn't going to happen without our intervention. I mean, we talk about affordable housing and we talk about the markets and these sorts of things, and the markets are not going to address this issue because there is more at play here. And I think what's so compelling, particularly about habitat, is the dynamic where you are really empowering people. Each of the folks who have come to speak to us as recipients of these houses are talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the conveyance of their house. And yet it has everything to do with the conveyance and the retention of their house. And so I wholeheartedly support it, and I applaud all of you for being here, and I would make a motion to approve on second reading.
I will second.
Motion and a second. I will also state that our ordinance is to convey the property to Holston Habitat, but from what I understand, they're also receiving money from the county commission for Washington County. Is it $300,000 to prepare the land, which is even going to make it more affordable and easier to build these houses. So I don't think you're going to have any problem with people being behind what you're doing. So
If I may speak into this particular matter, Mayor Fowler, been a part of conversations concerning this a long time ago. And if I recall correctly, during one of our meetings, there was support against conveying the land. And I've watched Habitat for Humanity, along with their board and others, to meet with community members in that neighborhood to help them understand what was truly happening, and they gained support. I think that's huge, that you guys took the time to meet and talk with that neighborhood and win their support. I don't sit in this seat to ever support anything and taking it away from a community that uses it for a purpose, because that community was using it for walks and Easter egg hunts and taking their dogs out. But I saw the turning of the community, and that's huge. And so I want to commend you guys for the work you did in that neighborhood, and I think it's a good thing. So thank you for what you do.
Anything else? Ms. Laus?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, the next item is 7.3. This is ordinance number 4865-23. Again, this is second reading and public hearing for an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee by changing from the I-2 district to the R3 district for property located along Steam Plant Road, south of Watauga Road.
This is the location of the subject property. This is the public hearing. There's no change since the second reading, or since the first reading. It's located at the intersection of Watauga Road and Steam Plant Road, across the street from the city's water and sewer intake plant, or the water intake plant. Water intake plant. Controlled by the Water and Sewer Department. And Mr. Trivia, you can feel free to time me for 3 minutes.
You may want to
if you'd like
straighten
that.
that, you may want to straighten that out.
Appreciate that.
We'll strike the
It's a-
word sewer from that.
It's a 3.32 acres tract, which is split zoned. It's surrounded by industrial property, but the property was annexed in 1979, had an industrial zoning applied to it. There was a subsequent rezoning in 1994 in which this portion of the lot was zoned R3. This was left I2. The current property owner and applicant would like to consolidate the zoning and make it R3. There's no proposed development. There is a concept plan associated with R3. The concept plan merely consists of the existing conditions with a note on the concept plan that says any future development would have to comply to R3 standards.
Which means it's just an interesting document. There's nothing binding about that concept plan, is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. The future land use map shows that this property calls for industrial development. However, industrial development has not occurred. And there are existing dwellings, 3 of which are occupied on the lot. A neighborhood meeting was held. There were 2 in attendance. They just had general questions regarding the proposal. They were supportive of it. Staff recommends approval for several reasons. One, it would resolve resolve a split zone condition. There are already existing single-family dwellings on the lot. There's always a reluctance, at least on my part, to recommend for a rezoning of industrial property because it's hard to get back once it's rezoned. But if industrial development were to ever occur out here, there's plenty of industrial property around. This has been rezoned to R3 already. It eliminates split zone conditions, so we recommend approval.
You got.
Gotta go.
Yep.
We have a
I
public
believe
hearing.
the property owner is here, I believe.
All right, so I will open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Have a
Second.
motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Laus?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, if I could, under the city manager's report, I would like to make one announcement. We have been continuing to work on the commission's goals that have been added for this year. One of the things that you all have listed is affordable housing. I think this is a great example of work that's continuing to be done. But as part of that, reorganizing and looking at how departments function has been a part of that. So in working with the city manager's team, the city manager's office, we have aligned our community development person, Wayne Lyons, with Alicia Summers in economic development. So now, much like Tennessee has economic and community development, we are organizing our efforts in that same manner to utilize those resources. I think what we've learned, and I'd welcome Alicia to come to the podium unexpectedly. I think what we've learned is, and she did a report for us this morning at our leadership meeting, is that housing is one of the critical parts of getting jobs, along with childcare and transportation. So we're excited to be able, and I think the staff is as well, to align those resources to better serve our community.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we talked about this morning in the leadership meeting was the barriers to employment. The top barriers are housing and childcare. And with Wayne and Community Development's focus on housing, and that being one of our focuses as well, it really is a great way to align.
And that becomes effective Monday. So again, it makes us more aligned with the state of Tennessee and gives us more resources to do that.
Absolutely.
And that probably brings a little bit more strategic planning with our CDBG funds on how we apply those to areas that may help get us, move us along a lot quicker.
Yep.
Excited about
George Bush called that strategery.
Strategery, yeah. I'm all for it.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
You're good, thank you.
Appreciate it. Anything else?
Nothing else.
All right, I'm gonna start over here tonight. Commissioner Wise, anything? Vice Mayor?
Yes, I do believe that East Tennessee State University, in partnership with Chauncey Visitor Center, they'll be hosting the Bands of America Regional Championships on Saturday.
25 different bands are coming to play.
So we're really excited to host these visitors to come to our city to compete. And so we encourage those in the community to go and check out these bands.
Very good.
I'll just add to what you kind of brought up. Our hoteliers are doing extremely well in Johnson City. People are coming here for a variety of reasons, but a lot of the activities that are going on here, a lot of the tournaments, and it's not just athletic tournaments. The Battle of the Bands is just a good example. Next year, we're having the Miss Tennessee pageant here. We have a Shiloh Shepherd Dog Show coming in April of next year. So we're getting a lot of variety of things. People love coming here, but yeah, the hoteliers are very, very happy right now, so it's a good thing. The only other thing I'll say, were you going to turn to me now? Okay, since I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
Only because I saw this morning, but maybe Mr. Trivett would like to address it since I'm just hitting you cold. I was behind one of our leaf pickup trucks, so they're already out. Do you want to kind of give the public,
We have our new Public Works Director.
Yeah, just kind of give the public an idea of, they're already started, right?
Yes, ma'am, we have. We actually started a little earlier this year so we could get a jump start on the leaves falling and get our staff all positioned so that we'd be ready to do that.
And you want us to mix sticks and leaves together, right?
Absolutely not. Our
Throw some
communications,
bricks, just random household waste, bury them under some
leaves.
leaves.
our communications and marketing team has actually sent out something on our website and to our Facebook page, kind of instructing and outlining what we'd like people to do to keep them out of the streets so they don't go into the storm drains, and no bricks or sticks or all of those things included. You have anything you want to add to it?
So, let's see, didn't we buy a new truck or an extra truck last year? We had problems with equipment breaking down, so we're all.
We did, and we actually worked through that this year too. And one of the things you approved tonight, I think this is worth sharing, but one of the things that you approved on your consent agenda was a change order for some mowing and litter pickup. And the reason for that is we have internal staff who pick up litter and do that on a regular basis, more so than what the contract with the state pays us to do, so that we can keep our roadways and stuff as nice as we can. But when the leaf season started, we have to pull that staff back into the leaf pickup, and so that's why this change order come in, so that we can do additional litter pickups and additional mowing on our state routes. So it's a great thing that you guys support Public Works in enough that you see the need sometimes because of staffing issues and because of how we have to do various things during various seasons of the year, that you support them enough to cover the cost of all those above and beyond what the state reimburses us for.
It came up, and Mr. Miles, you were there, so at the South Roan Street Business Alliance meeting about who picks up the litter under the interstate bridges. And we kind of talked around that, you know, the state does contract with us to do the mowing, and so
Correct.
they just kind of presented that as kind of a problem, that they're seeing more and more litter, but we need to appeal to our people.
We do.
Don't throw it out your window.
We do.
You know, take it and find a garbage can.
And one of the things I've noticed that Mr. Miles and Mr. Best and I have had meetings and discussed about a lot is they can go through and do a litter pickup along the interstate, and you can come right in behind them an hour later, and it don't look like anyone's picked up anything. And one of the things it is a lot of these trash trucks that are coming in, it's blowing out the back of the trucks, more so than it is our people littering. You know, it was very offensive to me when I first noticed this, but then when you start researching it and see that that's what it is, so they're working with Waste Management and with our surrounding partners who are bringing landfill trucks to Iris Glen to make sure it's covered, make sure it's checked, make sure that they're doing the things that they need to do so that trash doesn't blow out on our streets. But the state reimburses us for about 12 litter pickups and probably 6 mowings, but we want it to look so good, welcoming to Johnson City, that we do way more than that.
I've noticed also in some of our intersections or ramps and everything where the mowers have come down on these steep embankments and hit the fence and just taken the fence out. Is that being addressed at all? There's one over on Watauga, Unaka.
It is between Watauga and Unaka on 8th, I think that's 8th Street. And Ms. Joy's office is working with that contractor now for his insurance to pay to replace that fence. I had a meeting with Mr. Best a couple weeks ago to discuss that again. We've been really trying to get that replaced through the vendor's insurance. And I told him the other day that we just need to replace that and then seek the reimbursement for that so that we can keep that up, because it has looked bad for a little while.
It is steep, though. I can
It's
see
very
if it's a
steep.
little bit wet, I'm sure they slide right
Yeah,
in.
it's very
Of course, they're
difficult.
going 90 miles an hour, but, yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Anything else?
I will just say, the meeting with the South Rhone Street Business Alliance was just very good, and they see action being taken in that area. I'm really excited about new things to come. I think they have a good expectation, and there was a lot of compliments made, weren't there, from the attendees?
I drove through there yesterday, and the street lights that we promised that would come on down through there are being installed, and the LED lights on the poles that are going down through there. So those things are being taken care of as the planning process takes place during that.
Ms. Brock, you'll recall there was a comment made about how dark it is on is it Lath Cox, I
Mhm.
believe. So I ran into Paul Eastlick this morning. He's going out to look at that at night, make sure, you know, indeed that where it is dark, that we address that as well. So
Good.
we may be coming forward with more street light requests.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
The only thing left is I've got to go, so it's good timing. 8 o'clock, Science Hill plays Daniel Boone tonight. They moved the game to tonight. Yeah, because they just finished the soccer game that was Science Hill versus Dobbins Bennett, and unfortunately, Science Hill lost in overtime 2-1 to Dobbins Bennett tonight. So
Is that boys?
Girls.
Girls.
So anyway, I have to go work some more tonight. So if we're done here, I will.
But do you really work when you're at those?
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Ace is the sideline.
Sometimes I work more than I want to. I don't really want to work, but if somebody gets hurt, I have to
That's
work.
right.
So
You're
anyway,
right.
all right, I will adjourn.
They were so complimentary.